I would like, as a society for us to move forward and not really foster these unhealthy relationships and not really look at situations like that where really young women are kind of getting in over their heads and manipulated and things like that. I would like younger women to learn from my story and learn from the mistakes I made and learn how I got in over my head and things like that. So that's more my motivation. It's not like I don't really care what people think about Hef, honestly. We're so excited by how, listeners have really embraced it and they're having so much fun with us, because for us, it's super fun to go back and kind of like relive the good times and process the bad times. And for me, I look back and I remember a lot of bad times, but being able to go over the episodes with Bridget really helps me like reclaim the good times as well. So I feel like it's been really healthy for me.
For those who may be new to the podcast and want to try in season 2, can you paint a picture of what each episode looks like and some of the topics you guys are open to discussing?
Yeah, well, it's a rewatch podcast of The Girls Next Door, the reality show I was on in the early 2000s. It was on from 2005 to 2009 for 5 seasons. And we go over episode by episode. And each episode, I find when I watch, brings up a relevant, relatable topic, whether it's like body dysmorphia or revenge porn or something like that. Every single episode brings up a whole different topic. So we really get into it in each episode. And, we touch on topics that people can find relatable, but also we have a lot of laughs too.
And in season 1, you guys found some really incredible guests, people that watched the show and they're like, I remember her, I remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Was there someone that really stuck out to you as like, wow, that was a really great conversation, or they had a really great story?
We always bring people on that were either on the TV show or have something to do with the Playboy Mansion world. We talked to Arnie Freitag, one of the top Playboy photographers. We talked to a lot of our friends who were on the show, things like that. We talked to a producer of the show, but I think the listener's favorite was a gentleman named Bryant Horowitz. He was a butler at the mansion for a good 20 years, over 20 years. And he had so many stories and everybody, remembers him from the show and loves him. And we did 2 episodes with him and people loved it.
Holly, I love your friendship with Bridget. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you talked before about how the Playboy Mansion didn't exactly set up women to have sisterhoods and friendships. Are you surprised that you guys have been able to build such a special bond and relationship?
Yeah, I think Bridget and I really got each other through the hard times, when we were kind of going through it with some of the other women. And we managed to, I think, really turn the atmosphere around up there after we were there for a couple of years. We really decided to make an effort to try and like meet every new Playmate candidate at the door and show them around and make friends with them and really be proactive. And I feel like we really turned it around, because it sucks so bad how there was so much drama there for so long between all the women, and that was kind of fostered and everything. And it was miserable to live with. But the flip side of it is the mansion also turned into a really positive place for female friendships as well. It's weird because I experienced both sides of the extremes. I experienced like the bullying and feeling like everybody hated me for no reason and things like that. But then I also have all these lifelong friendships with all these playmates and other women who live there. So I've really seen both sides of it.
And I know some of these podcasts, I mean, they have co-hosts and like they do their podcast and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But can you talk about how like your friendship kind of extends far beyond just a simple podcast?
Yeah, Bridget and I have been friends for almost 20 years now. I think maybe 20 years exactly. And even after we left the mansion, we always kept in touch regularly. And it's fun to have this excuse to get back together every week. And even like touching base with the people we've interviewed on the podcast, it's a fun excuse to talk to people that maybe we haven't talked to in 5 or 10 years. And it's so much fun.
You do a lot of reflecting in the podcast about Hugh Hefner and Playboy in general. I know September is the anniversary of when he passed away. After all these years of kind of reflecting on your experience, how do you think fans or just people should remember him as?
I feel like that's not really my concern. I think people think that I have a big agenda as far as like how Hef should be remembered or how he should be thought of, because, when I share my experience at the mansion, obviously he's a massive part of it. So it's kind of like this inextricable thing. But when I share my experience, it's more about just being honest about where I was coming from and what I went through, and not wanting to be misrepresented, whether it was by him when he was alive or by the producer of the show when he was alive. And it's kind of this, like I said, inextricable thing where, I can't really talk about him without people forming a certain opinion, but also that wasn't my motivation either. Like, my book came out when I wrote it was in 2015, and that was before like cancel culture and the Me Too movement really went mainstream. So I wasn't expecting anything to happen to him. It's not like he had a boss that could fire him from his position or anything like that. So that was never my motivation. So I don't really care. I like it that people have the whole story, because I would like, as a society, for us to move forward and not really foster these unhealthy relationships, and not really look at situations like that where really young women are kind of getting in over their heads and manipulated and things like that. I would like younger women to learn from my story and learn from the mistakes I made and learn how I got in over my head and things like that. So that's more my motivation. It's not like I don't really care what people think about Hef, honestly.
Right. And people can make their own judgments, and you're just here to share your perspective, your experience. That makes
Yeah.
perfect.
And, at the end of the day, he's a human being, and all human beings have shades of black and white and gray in their soul. And it's not like you're not one thing.
Forgive me if this is a naive question, but I know that Crystal Hefner recently announced she has her own book coming out soon. I know it's so far away. Is she a person you would be interested in talking to on the podcast at some point? Do you have any relationship?
We've talked here and there, possibly, yeah, but it would be more when we talk about season 6, when she was on the show. We try and keep very things chronological on Girls Next Level. Like Bridget and I are both obsessed with like keeping things in chronology. So we always bring guests on as they appear on the show, or like producers come on while we're talking about the season that they worked on. So that's kind of how we love organizing things.
I have a feeling, Holly, that you've had some phone calls where people have gone, would you like to do another reality show with your family? Would you like to do celebrity this, celebrity that? I feel like you live kind of a very more private life these days. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe why reality TV isn't as interesting today as it was back then?
Yeah, I never wanted to be on a reality show. When I was at Playboy, I had dreams of getting into the entertainment industry, but I wanted more to be like a TV host or something like that. When the reality show came around, I was very hesitant about doing it, but I didn't have much of a choice unless I wanted to like leave the house that day and completely start my life over, which I wasn't really ready to do. But, I did it and I made the best of it. And I thought some great things came out of the show, and we had some fun times. And it was kind of like this special moment in time. But there's a lot of downsides to doing reality TV too. I always say, that even on the show, if you're doing fake drama turns into real drama and you end up hating people. I don't think it's good for people's family lives. I don't think it's good for people's friendships necessarily. And it's nothing I have a desire to do. And I feel like these days, like reality TV doesn't have that much of an impact unless you're on like a legacy show that has a huge following, like Real Housewives or Vanderpump Rules. I don't see like, unless I'm missing something, I don't see like new reality shows coming along that are really like setting the world on fire.
I know you're a mom to 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're at Disneyland now. Can you
Yeah.
just kind of paint a picture of your life today, and what's bringing you the most joy in this chapter of your life?
Oh my God, definitely my kids. I'm divorced now. I have joint custody, but the days I'm with my kids, I'm super hands-on, super present, not doing any work or anything. And we just have the best time. I'm just really focused on helping them with their homework and just trying to make them have the best memories of their childhood they possibly can. And then when I'm not with my kids, I'm doing all these fun projects like the podcast, and I'm doing true crime shows on Investigation Discovery, which I really am passionate about. And I'm really fulfilled right now and having a lot of fun.
Oh, I love to hear that, Holly. Finally,
Thanks.
before I let you go, I know this is probably a loaded question, but do you think Girls Next Door, could that be a show today? Could we see that in this climate today?
I mean, you could do it, but it would be a hot mess. And people would be like, I mean, I guess maybe an equivalent, like people might take offense to this, but I feel like Sister Wives is the equivalent,
Yeah.
you know?
Are you a fan? Do you watch?
I watched it in the beginning, but I found it triggering for personal reasons. I met them all in Vegas. They were very nice years ago, but yeah, I found it triggering
Yeah.
based on personal experience.
Right. Holly, any chance you would do a show in Vegas again, or is that also kind of in the past?
I loved doing a show in Vegas when I was doing it, but I don't think I could really handle the schedule. I'm kind of all over the place with my kids' schedule and just keeping the projects I have going and making time for my boyfriend. So I don't know if like a regular show schedule would be something I could really do without feeling completely overwhelmed. But when I was in a show, I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah. Never forget Peep Show. I still remember
Yeah,
those ads whenever I went.
so fun.
Holly, thanks so much for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to tease about the podcast that I didn't get to?
Oh my gosh, not that I can think of, except we're having so much fun recording it and just laughing our heads off. And we hope you guys enjoy it too.
Awesome. Holly, this was a pleasure. Thanks for ending my week on a good note. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. It was so nice to talk to you.